Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to do a really short and fun book tag. I was tagged by my friend Sam from Sam Not So Wise. He reads a lot of classic fantasy and sci-fi, among other things, so if you like those genres, check him out. I'll have him linked in the description down below. So this is going to be the Back to Browsing book tag, I'm pretty sure is what it's called, and it's all about browsing and finding books. So question 1 is called The Magic of Discovery. Name a book that you found while browsing that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Back in June of this year, I went book shopping and my goal was to buy a book specifically, I almost dropped it, by a Black author that I had never heard of, and I had found Delicious Monsters by Lascelles Sandberry. I had heard of this author before, but I had never seen this cover or heard of this book, and from what I understand, because I haven't read it yet, oh my gosh, but it is top of my TBR for next year. From what I understand, this book is about a girl who kind of has like a shitty relationship with her mother. They move into this really creepy old house, and then the girl starts investigating what happened to some of the previous families who had lived there before, and I believe she uncovers like a really interesting mystery revolving a missing girl, and I think she has to decide between bringing to light new evidence for this mystery or dealing with her own parental relationship situation. And I have never heard of this before, and I've never heard anyone talk about it, but again, I had heard other people talk about her other book, which I think is called Tender Beasts, I think is what it's called, which is a horror. I think this is more mystery than horror, although I would love if it could get creepy because the cover is super creepy. But yeah, again, I just literally walked around and looked for covers that I'd never seen before, and when I read the back of this one and I was like, okay, that sounds really interesting, it kind of gave me like the Haunting of Hill House vibes, because it's like an old house where it's supposedly haunted or like creepy things are happening surrounding the house, and the person who's living in the house starts investigating what had happened there previously. So it kind of gave me Hill House vibes in that sense. I don't think it will be as like solid scary horror as Hill House is the show. I mean, I read the book recently and it really wasn't that scary, but I have high hopes for this one. And again, I would not have found this if I didn't just walk around and look at books. Question number 2 is called Expanding World, and this is to share a book that has opened up your eyes and helped you see things from a new perspective. So for this, I'm gonna pick Hood Feminism, which is actually a book that I did just recently recommend to Sam on his channel, because this book really dives into the ways in which feminism at its core is also like kind of racist. Like white women who like are like feminists and and activists, like a lot of the things that they do and benefit from as feminists also is like a privilege, I guess. And there's a lot of talk in here about how if your feminism doesn't include and uplift Black or BIPOC women, then your feminism is like racist and it's not fully complete. Like it's not actually feminism, because Black women, especially in the United States, are the most oppressed class, especially systemic racism and even like racism in the medical field. Like Black women are the most affected by this. And that was something that I like kind of knew before. Like I knew obviously that white women's discrepancy in the medical field wasn't as major as Black women's discrepancies in the medical field, but this book really like lays out facts for you, and it kind of like really just puts it in your face. It makes you uncomfortable, it makes you think, it makes you readjust your thoughts and expectations on things going in. My cat's taking a shit. Astro, why do you do this to me? Hood Feminism also talks a lot about food insecurity and having safe neighborhoods to live in and having equal access to education. So it is definitely a book that opened my eyes to all of the ways in which like mainstream feminism is actually really failing Black and BIPOC women of this country especially. This is a book that I highly recommend to anyone who wants to open their eyes and learn how to do better in their feminism and their activism. And also I need to reread this, honestly, because there is so much contained within these pages that I don't think that having read it only one time that I fully learned everything that it has to offer me. So I definitely need to read this one again. But again, this is the one that has opened my eyes the most in the last few years that I've read. It's also just really well written, on top of it being like informational and eye-opening. Question number 3 is called Open to Change, and share a book that has changed who you are as a person or changed your day-to-day habits. So one book that has changed who I am on a molecular level is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. And I know what you're thinking, Rachel, that's a YA fantasy. How could it have impacted you so much? There is a character in here named Minya. And when I first read this book, I hated her. I despised her. I thought she was annoying and I wanted her to die. And I just absolutely could not stand her. And the second time I read this book, I realized I hated her because she's me. I hated her because I resonated with her. And I hated her because she represented all of the things about myself that I don't like. And the third time I read this book, I liked her. And I realized that she showed me that it's okay to feel the things that I feel, and it's okay to be angry sometimes, and it's okay to have grief and anger like commingling, and it is okay to like sit in those feelings and marinate in them. And even if you make bad choices in your life because of terrible things you've gone through, that like you can always change, and like there is no right or wrong way to grieve. There is no right or wrong way to heal from trauma. And there is just so much to offer outside of those things that you hate about yourself, I guess. There's a quote in here that isn't by Minya specifically, but there's a quote in here that says, where is it, by the way? I know I have it tabbed. I switched to my paperback because this is the one that I've tabbed, as you can see. And that's how you go on. You lay laughter over the dark parts. The more dark parts, the more you have to laugh. With defiance, with abandon, with hysteria. Any way you can. And that really just resonated with me because making people laugh is like my favorite thing in the world. And when people tell me I'm funny, that is like the biggest compliment you could ever give me, because I feel like, oh my God, I told myself I wasn't gonna cry over this fucking book anymore. I've read it so many times. You think I'd be over it by now? Anyways, here we are. Me lying. Who would have thought? I think that this book taught me that people who have trauma can still laugh, and people who have trauma can still like be more than their trauma. And I think that it just really resonated with me because I had spent a lot of time in my childhood like not laughing like at all, and just being very miserable for good reason, and just having a shitty time in life. And I feel like when I finally let myself like laugh again, it kind of really was like the catalyst that helped me on my journey to like healing and moving forward from that. So this book definitely resonated with me, helped me kind of identify some things that I don't like about myself, and helped me like accept some parts of myself that I don't like also. So yeah, it's just a YA fantasy. Like it's just a YA fantasy, right? This book has a lot of nuance and a lot of layers, and I feel like there is a surface plot, and then there's so much that goes on when you read between the lines, and especially when you dissect like character archetypes and just their personalities and their backstories. So yeah, this book stays with me every day of my life. I think about this book at least once. So moving on, so I stop crying. Stop it, Rachel. Question number 4 is just to browse a bookstore, library, or a friend's bookshelves and talk about a book that you found. And for this, I'm going to talk about 2 books. I actually bought these back in August of this year on my birthday. I went book shopping with my friend Maggie while she was in town here, and my aunt watched my son for me, and I made it a point to try to find books that I hadn't heard of or are not really like super popular and underappreciated. So the first book I found was Empire of Exiles by Erin M. Evans, and I actually picked this up because it was facing out on the shelf. Like this cover was facing towards me when I walked by it, and I saw the map and the dagger and the ink pot up here, and I actually thought that it was The First Law by Joe Abercrombie because his UK cover has like this parchment-y kind of like look to it. So I picked it up and turned it over to read the back, and I was like, wait, this doesn't sound like grimdark. So I flipped it back over and was like, oh shit, it's literally not The First Law. It's a different book. So that was how I stumbled upon this one. But upon reading the description, I was super intrigued in it, so I snatched it up anyway. The synopsis says, 23 years ago, a duke with a grudge led a ruthless coup against his empire, killing thousands. He failed. The duke was executed. A terrifyingly powerful sorcerer was imprisoned, and an unwilling princess disappeared. But the empire moved on. Now, Quill, an apprentice scribe, also a scribe named Quill, I love it, arrives in the capital city believing he's on a simple errand for another pompous noble. Fetch ancient artifacts from the magical imperial archives. But these artifacts are the instruments of revolution, the banners under which the Duke led his coup, and the city has just been shaken by a brutal murder that looks to be caused by a weapon not seen since those dark days of rebellion. With Quill being the main witness to the murder and no one in power believing his story, he must join with a young mage, a seasoned archivist, and a disillusioned investigator to find out the truth of the attack. And what they uncover will be the key to saving the Empire or destroying it. Doesn't that sound fantastic? I haven't read it yet. Again, I know. Shame on me. Shame on me. I get it. I buy books and I don't read them. I read them eventually, just not right away. But yeah, so I picked this up, thought it was the first law, realized it wasn't, read the synopsis, and bought it anyway. Also on that same shopping trip with my friend Maggie for my birthday this year, I saw this title on the spine, and it's called Spine of the Dragon. Now the cover leaves a little to be desired. It's quite literally just an up close of some scales and like a half-assed dagger, like clip art. But I picked this up because it had the word dragon in the title, and hey, how's it going? If you're new here, I love dragons. So once I saw the word dragon, I picked it up and I had to read the summary, of course, and it did sound super intriguing. Thousands of years ago, the god Kur created the first race, the Reth, who were beautiful and powerful in magic. He commanded them to destroy Osis, the dragon at the heart of the world. For this task, the Reth needed servants, slaves, and soldiers. So they created a lesser race of their own, the humans, who fought and died at their side. The land was devastated by their magical warfare, and the Reths in time exterminated one another. Now, millennia later, the land is fertile again and well settled. Humans have survived, flourished, and built empires of their own. The Reth and the dragon Osis are tales of a legendary past. But one day, a party of Reths rides out of the desert waste and up to the gates of King Aiden Starfall's castle. In a swirl of storm and a crackling of magic, the queen of the Sand Reths demands that the humans return to her service, to wake the dragon and to slay him. Like, I'm sorry, what? And this is from Tor, and I have never heard of this book. And Orbit and Tor are two of my favorite like fantasy publishers. So Tor, you have been slacking on marketing this book. Like, you could have spent a little bit more on the cover, and if the cover just kind of caught the eye a little better, I'm sure that if they had posted about it on socials, I would remember. But I've never heard of this author, and I've never heard of this book. The series is called Wake the Dragon, and it says book 1. I have no idea how many books are in this series, and I really hope that they're still publishing. When did this come out? Oh my god, there are 2 maps. Oh my god, there are 3 maps. Oh my god, there are 4. There are 4 maps. Okay. Okay, I see you. Let's see. When did this come out? This came out in 2019. But I just heard of it this year when I found it on the shelf, which is wild because, again, I've never heard of it and I don't know who Kevin J. Anderson is. Apparently, I live under a rock because his bio says Kevin J. Anderson is the #1 international best-selling author of more than 140 books. He has won or been nominated for the Nebula Award, the Hugo Award, Bram Stoker Award, and others. Am I just like living in a fucking echo chamber and I never hear about anything outside of what I'm already hearing about? Clearly, I need to be exposing myself to other books from other sources more often because the summary on this one really just sounds like it is going to be right up my alley. Absolutely love it. I can't wait to read this. Reading the summaries of these 2 books literally just reignited the urge to read them. Like, this is how I felt on my birthday when I read them at the bookstore. I was like, oh my god, these both sound really great. Why haven't I heard about them before? And now I'm like reliving that moment and I'm feeling that way all over again. Wow, doing this tag really just reminded me how much I used to love, especially as like a teenager, going to a store and looking for books that I had never heard of before, because back when I was a teenager so long ago, because of how old I am, finding books on the internet like wasn't as easy or readily accessible for me to do. So it really was just a certain kind of magic that you feel when you walk into a bookstore and you find a book that sounds incredible that you've never heard of. It's like almost like that Christmas morning feeling, I guess. And yeah, that just really made me remember how much I love doing that, and I need to do it more often. So to end this video, I'm going to tag 3 people. I really would love to see Mair from Lady Mair Reads do this tag. tag, and I will link everyone I'm about to tag in the description down below. I would also like to see Jess from Library of a Mood Reader, who is just like the most wholesome person on the internet, by the way. So please, again, check everyone out. And Charlie from Charlie Read a Book. He is a fellow booktuber who is also a parent, so I know the struggle of making content while also caring for a living human being. So make sure you check him out down below. He's definitely worth your watch, especially if you like TTRPGs and fantasy. So check out all three of these amazing people. And for this one, let's say if you've made it this far, leave the tag emoji down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!